Hello and welcome back to this video of the video series on KNX IP. Now that we know what we need KNX IP interfaces for, we will see in this video how we can work with them in the EDS5. So I am back here in the EDS5, and to show you the usage of an IP interface in the practice, I prepared a little example project. So in this project I currently only have a KNX IP BIOS 777, which, as you can see here, isn't programmed at the moment. So the next thing I want to do is I want to program the KNX IP BIOS with the help of an KNX IP interface, the KNX IP Interface 732 Secure. So therefore I come back here to EDS and switch over to the bus tab, and right here you can already see that the EDS5 has already detected in KNX IP Interface, the 732 Secure, with this IP address. So the KNX IP interface is connected to my network, and there it got from the router, with the help of DHCP, the address 192.168.178.67. Now if I make a double click on this device, you can see I have selected it as the current interface. And with that I can go back to the EDS and I can start to program the BIOS. Therefore I click under full download, and what you can see now is that there pops up an interface check. So the EDS5 recognized that the address of the interface 505240 isn't an address that is possible within this network, because if you take a look at the topology, you can see that we only have the area and the line on 1.1 and not an area with the number 15 and a line with the number 50. So therefore it is asking if I want to keep the current settings or I want to change the interface settings. I will change the interface settings to 1.1, for example 200, and to make sure that this address is free I click here to make a check. So you can see the address 11200 is not used by another device, so I can safely use it. And what comes next is that I have to press the programming button on the BIOS 777. So now that the download has finished, you can see everything just worked fine. And what we can also see, if I switch back to the EDS, that the address has changed here to 11200, which you can also see here, the individual address that we use. Now another thing I want to do is I want to add this interface to this program, because if we remember, we can also use an interface, for example in the combination with a visualization server or any other device that just needs an IP tunnel to communicate with KNX. So therefore I will open up the catalogs page, and there I will search for the 732 Secure. Here we have it, and I will add it to the line. Now the next thing that happens is that the EDS5 is asking me to set a password, because otherwise we are not able to use the secure functionality of this interface. So therefore I will quickly set up a password. Now with that done, the next step the EDS5 wants me to do is it wants me to add the device certificate. So with KNX Secure, every device has its own certificate, which we need to add to this project, so that then the devices that need to communicate with each other in an encrypted way have the device certificate of the other device. So therefore you have two options available. First of all, you can scan the QR code on the side of the device, or what will I do now? I will enter the key that is printed onto the device. So with that done, I can click on OK, and you can see now we have the device added to our network, and with this shield symbol here we can see that Secure is enabled. So what can we set up in this interface? Therefore let us take a look at the parameters. Here we can see some description of the device, and under general settings we can enable or disable the programming mode on the device front. So on the device front we have two buttons, these two, and if we press both buttons simultaneously, the device is going to go into the programming mode. which I can also disable so that you can only enable the programming mode with the button which is normally behind the cover in your cabinet. Then we can set up the manual operation, so when we press one of these buttons, should it be with a time limit, without a time limit, or we can even disable the manual operation. But I will leave it just as default. What I want to do now is I want to set up a static IP address so that we ensure that even after a device restart, the interface keeps its IP address. This is especially important, for example, with servers or other devices that will use a tunneling address of this interface, so that there we don't need to update the IP address every time. So therefore I go under Properties and IP address, and here I can set up a static IP address. So I will change it here to 192.168.178.67. And then the subnet mask I need to change accordingly, so 255.255.255.0. Default gateway I'll leave it as default, and then we set up everything as we need it. So therefore I will now download everything onto the interface. So now the download has finished, and with that we can see that in the line everything is programmed, so the IP interface now has a static IP address. What else can we find in the IP interface? Well, if we take a look and open up the interface, we can see every KNX IP tunneling address that is available. So in this case, up to 9 KNX IP tunneling addresses. So in the case of the IP interface 732 secure, we have 8 KNX Net IP tunneling interfaces. And if we click on one of these, we can change the address under the properties. For example, we can change this to 200, and with that we move the first KNX Net IP tunneling address to 11200, so now we can use the 1111, for example, for other devices. Another thing we can do is that we can enable secure tunneling. Now, to use this feature, it is important that the device that will later on use this tunnel address also supports secure tunneling. So to enable it, I will click down here under the settings and activate secure tunneling. And with that, we can see for each tunnel we now have a specific tunnel password, which we will then need to enter into the device that is going to use this tunnel. It is advisable that you take a look at your bus options, so ETS, bus and options, and that there the setting use direct IP connection if available is activated. Because then it is ensured that the EDS5 is using the IP connection instead of, for example, a TP connection, so that you will benefit from the speed advantage that the network infrastructure has. And this is how easily we can work with a KNX IP interface and how we can set up it in such a way that a server or any other device that needs a KNX IP tunnel can work with it. In the next video, we want to take a look at the KNX IP routers and what the difference is between tunneling and routing. So see you in the next video.